So if you're having or have had really scary nightmares, night terrors, if you will, really bad dreams, and they happen really often, and you're wondering, if it'll ever stop, or if it does, how, then you're going to find this video very helpful. I am somebody who rarely had intense nightmares ever since the age of, I think, 4, 5, or 6 years old. And mine would manifest very often in the form of like demons, ghosts, monsters. And it was almost as if it was taken directly from any scary movie I'd ever seen. And it was really intense, very, very intense, to the point where I would be scared to go to sleep because I was worried I'd have one of these nightmares. And I would be sort of like lying in bed, waiting to go to sleep, and just the idea of maybe having a nightmare would make me scared. And I would get anxious, and I would start sweating, and I would be like convinced I could feel something standing there in the background or whatever. And then very often I would end up seeing them in my dreams. And it sucked. It really sucked. Because it was draining. First of all, not being able to sleep. Second of all, if I did have a nightmare, I'd then wake up and again be sweating and have this like dread in my stomach, and literally have to discern whether I was out of the dream and actually in reality or not, because that feeling was so intense. And as I said, that started when I was like 4, 5, or 6, and it continued for years. Gradually, a little bit less and less, not every day kind of thing. And as I got older, it sort of reduced, but it was still there. And then what I started doing naturally in my life is I started facing fears. It started off with like self-improvement, then it went into sort of like deeper psychology type of things like belief work and subconscious fears and wounds and everything. And what I started to realize or notice was that as I started facing certain insecurities, certain fears, jealousy, fear of being seen, fear of being abandoned or left or whatever, as I started facing these fears, I would start slowly having less and less nightmares. And that was really cool. I was starting to get really happy about the fact that these nightmares weren't messing up my night and in general making me scared to even like relax and go to sleep. But I was still having them. And they were still very intense when I did have them. But I could recognize that, and I started wondering if there was like a link between the fact that I was facing these fears in real life and therefore was having less nightmares. And then I came across this book from Carl Jung, the famous psychologist. And in this book, he spoke about how he assumed, or his theory, let's say, was that our dreams are almost our subconscious communicating with us. It's the subconscious wanting to, at least from what I understood at the time, talk to us and kind of like show us what we need to work on, let's say. Show us the fears we need to face. And that really sort of like hit. It really made sense to me. And it kind of confirmed that coincidence that I thought, or that I saw. And that very night, when I read that book, I had another dream. And I was standing in this passageway of my old house. And I was at the front of the passageway, and then I was wanting to get to the end of the passageway, but in between me and the end was this like demon girl. This like monster. And, everything I'd sort of worked in my life was facing my fears. And for some reason, that idea came to me in the dream where I was like, fuck this, I can't keep running away from these monsters and these like these like creatures and demons and blah 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 blah. And I built up all this courage in this middle of the passageway, and all of a sudden 2 knives appeared in my hand, and I ran at this demon girl, and I fucking jumped at her, and I stabbed her like in her shoulder and in like her chest slash ribs. And this demon did nothing but like look at me and scream in pain and agony. And in that moment, I kind of like half asleep, half awake, kind of realized exactly what Jung had been saying, which was this demon in my dream wasn't trying to hurt me. Even when I had stabbed her, she didn't try and hurt me or fight back. She just took it and screamed in pain. And I immediately woke up, and I could just see it so clearly, where it was like, yeah, this whole time, these nightmares haven't been trying to actually hurt me. I didn't need to be scared of them. They were just trying to show me something. And that was a really big realization for me. And that made me way more open to sort of understanding the subconscious more. So what I then started doing was I went deeper into subconscious work. I started going deeper into the belief system. I went deeper into like, what the subconscious is, how it's connected to, synchronicities, presence, meditation, blah, 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 blah. And I think one of the biggest things that really shifted for me was when I overcame some beliefs to allow me to meditate more. And I started specifically meditating before bedtime, because I had heard that almost gets you into a more subconscious state. Or at least that's what I was finding. When I would meditate before bed, I would almost 100% dream. But I was already in the state of like subconsciousness. I was in a deeper mental state. And I basically started becoming more used to a more calm nervous system state, subconscious state, so on and so forth. And what started happening then, I stopped not having nightmares at all. I started having very deep dreams still, but no like scary dreams. To the point where even if a dream is technically scary, I haven't felt fear in a dream in a good 2 or 3 years. And I've dreamt a lot still. And it was such a relief. It was such an amazing moment to get to not be scared of my dreams, to not be scared of going to sleep anymore, to be able to relax and almost feel confident in going to sleep. And it was also so interesting because I could really and truly see and understand how, and what I realized from it all is that dreams were just my subconscious wanting to communicate with me. But when I wasn't facing my fears in real life, which is what it was trying to communicate to me, it was trying to show me hey, here are your fears, here's the stuff you need to face and work on, blah, 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 blah. When I wasn't willing to face it, or when I didn't understand it, it came to me in a nightmare form to almost slap me awake. And that's really what I realized it was. It was nightmares were the subconscious's way of making me very aware of it so I could go and face it. So that I wouldn't just ignore it or brush it off. And that's why there were so many in the beginning and so intense and so on and so forth. And as I started working on them and facing them, they became less. And then the real shift was when I actually started getting used to the subconscious state of being, meditation and presence work and all that kind of thing. Because I was used to it and therefore no longer ignoring the subconscious state or no longer scared of it. I became like familiar with it. It no longer needed to like give me nightmares in the sort of scary sense at all. It was almost like it started offering me, um, how would I call it? It started offering me the same communication, the same symbols, the same ideas, and sort of pointing me in the same direction, but it didn't need to slap me in the face anymore because I was already open to it. And that's why the dream still stayed really deep and beautiful and intense, but in a non-scary way. And it actually started becoming more easy to almost like decode what it was trying to point me towards or show me what I was processing or whatever. And it was really cool. So whenever somebody, tells me that they had a dream or a nightmare now, I always ask them, like, what do you think it means? And, what is this pointing towards? And, what could you take on this and sort of decode that maybe you need to sort of like work on or sort of face or overcome? How does this relate to your life in reality? And I've started having less dreams in general, which has actually become kind of sad. I've actually started really looking forward to having dreams now. So I hope that was helpful. And I just want to let you know that you're not alone in that. And, I'm going to be right here making these videos. And if this did resonate, then you're probably someone I'm going to get along with. So I hope I'll see you in the next one.